We now have major PC manufacturers like Dell and Lenovo giving specific numbers and dates for the price increases to expect based on the RAM prices going up. And don't worry, we have lots of other PC hardware news topics to talk about today, as well as some PC game news, like Netflix bought Warner Brothers, but that also includes Warner Brothers games. How is that going to affect the game industry? We've got a lot to talk about today, but let's just get the bad news out of the way first. But the good news about the bad news, we actually have some specifics now. So like, how much more expensive are computers going to get because of RAM prices going crazy? Because even if RAM prices double or triple, that doesn't mean that the price of a computer will double or triple. Because I think RAM prices typically make up like 17% or so of the bill of materials for like a laptop, that kind of a thing. You know, obviously it varies depending on the specific specs. But Dell is saying that prices will go up 15 to 20% starting in mid-December. Now, that doesn't mean they won't go up again and again and again throughout 2026, but this is at least the initial price increase. And Lenovo is quoting similar price increases, but starting in January. And so you would expect something that's like $1,000 laptop or pre-build from Lenovo or Dell to now be like $1,200 for the same specs you could have got $1,000 for previously. A $2,000 one would now be like $2,400, that kind of thing. Now, we could infer that similar price increases would hit other consumer electronics devices, etc. But certain things like consoles, it remains to be seen how much like Nintendo on the Switch 2 or Sony on the PlayStation might just choose to eat some of the margin hit, because console business model is definitely different than PCs, where oftentimes they are sold at a loss and then they just depend on taking the cut on game sales in order to, and on subscription services, etc., to make back the profit margins. So it still remains to see exactly how bad this will be, and it also remains to see how much worse this will be getting soon, because again, we've seen from all the quotes from the memory manufacturers saying that they're not offering long-term, like years-long contracts. They're doing probably more like quarterly. So after another quarter, if RAM prices continue to go up, computer prices could continue to go up, but at least we have some specifics here. Man, I got to finish the rest of this video fast. I got to get my kids to gymnastics in a second, which brings me to this topic. Last time I did a Q&A video, I was expecting a bunch of tech questions. I got some, but mostly I got questions about how do I manage my insane schedule teaching math full-time while also doing this YouTube channel and having kids, taking them to gymnastics, piano, all of that. Also, I fit in my playing guitar, getting in deadlifts. How am I doing it? Well, honestly, I have to plan my schedule peak efficiency. Like, I'm filming this in between the sets of deadlift on my lunch break. And to manage a crazy schedule, you should check out Akiflow. They're the all-in-one solution that brings essential productivity tools into a universal inbox that works as your second brain when your current one isn't enough. While the one calendar is the perfect set for realistic planning. With time slots, it's easy to organize time block tasks, and lock them to appear across calendars. The Kanban view helps structure each day, week, or month, and the natural language recognition makes easy to plan tasks. While Aki, the AI executive assistant, works proactively to boost productivity, it improves daily habits, creates automations with a simple prompt, automatically organizes tasks into projects, and offers smart nudges to improve how you use your time. Finally, Akiflow's daily rituals offer a moment to review daily progress and planning, while productivity stats can reveal trends and insights over time. Check the sponsored link in the video description and/or pinned comment to improve your time management and efficiency and productivity today with Akiflow. Now, another thought I have with PC prices going up is I'd imagine that that means upgrades and sales are going to go down. Some people are probably just going to be priced out of it, stick to what they already have. And I'm curious how that's going to affect the Windows 11 adoption, because despite the Windows 10 end of life, we're seeing Windows 11 barely ahead of Windows 10. We're seeing, I found this at the Register, but they're quoting stat counter here, that's saying as of November 2025, Windows 11 was 53.7% of the Windows desktop market. So again, we're focusing on just Windows here, not including like Linux, etc. while Windows 10 was at 42.7%. And again, I'm expecting new PC adoption to go down, and some people might just hang on to Windows 10 if they're already on it, unless they happen to be upgrading to a new PC, in which case that would be where they'd get the Windows 11 upgrade. And yeah, are we going to see that have us slow down a bit here? I mean, TrendForce based on this is predicting lower PC shipments, notebook shipments, etc., for next year rather than the projected growth of 1.7%. They're now projecting a 2.4% year-on-year decline. But is anything exciting coming out that you might want to buy, spur you on to that new PC? Well, the 9850X3D has been, I reported previously that it had been posted to an AMD website on a driver page, but was taken down. And we'd seen earlier rumors about the specs. We're now seeing even more confirmation that this thing is probably real. And that is actually leaked benchmarks. Now, PC Guide has the figures for us here, and we can compare it to the results for the 9800X3D. Now, it's Geekbench results. Geekbench is not, super exciting for like a gaming benchmark kind of thing, and it's not always like gonna actually be able to utilize 3D cache, etc. But at least comparing it to another 3D cache chip, you can get some sort of a comparison. But again, we have one benchmark for the 9850X3D, whereas the 9800X3D has a whole bunch of systems that are averaged out. So this is not exactly the same thing as like an independent benchmarker just swapping out the PC in the same system, So make of it what you will. It has a slightly higher single core score. 3,439 versus 3,334. Although the multi-core score is slightly lower at 17,530 versus 18,335. I wouldn't make too much of these benchmarks just because, again, it's one leak on Geekbench, but this is at least further confirmation that this chip is probably coming. Now, remember the rumored specs were that it was going to hit 5.6 gigahertz out of the box. And this also confirms that as well, because Geekbench does report the stats on the chip. So this further confirmation that's pretty much all this is. This is a slightly higher clocked 9800X3D, so you would expect a small single-digit percentage performance boost, and that's what we're seeing here on the single core score. So again, probably not gonna light a fire under people to upgrade if they haven't already got a 9800X3D. And when are we gonna be getting more stuff from AMD here? From Intel to compete with AMD, who's had this crown. Well, we have Intel's Panther Lake and Nova Lake CPUs are apparently expected to bring the company back in the game, with Team Blue showing renewed confidence in its PC roadmap. Again, all my sources in the description. This is from WCCF Tech. But they have some quotes from Intel's VP, John Pitzer, at UBS, saying, we feel pretty good about the PC roadmap. Quite frankly, I think that this year was a challenging year for us at the high end of the desktop market. We've been pretty, transparent about that. I think a lot of the damage that has occurred there has already happened. I think that as you think about Panther Lake, I think it shores up our position in the notebook market. As you bring Nova Lake late next year into 2027, we'll have a competitive part across the PC stack, across both notebook and desktop. So again, we've seen that Intel's desktop, especially in gaming PCs market, like look at the Steam hardware survey, etc., their market share has been trending down. Look at like Amazon sales for CPUs, etc. They've been trending down. And just in gaming benchmarks, they haven't been the top of the charts. 9800X3D on top. So they're at least claiming that Nova Lake should be competitive across the PC stack. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it would beat the 9800X3D, but I'm kind of wondering if this 9850X3D is something that AMD is just sort of getting ready in case Nova Lake beats the 9800X3D by 3 or 4%. oh, can we now release a 5% faster chip to take that gaming crown? Because there's certainly an amount of like marketing and mind share that's built around having the fastest gaming chip, even if that's not the one and everybody ends up buying. So I wonder if this is kind of just there to counter Nova Lake if, let's say, Nova Lake came out before we got AMD's actually true next generation, or at least their next generation X3D chips, which tend to be their, faster gaming processors. So you sort of wonder if that's just kind of, it's just there in case they need it, sort of a thing, to make sure they retain the gaming crown. Now, the other kind of good news for Intel in all of this is that the move to Nova Lake is going to be actually using more of Intel's own fab process for it. So another quote from Intel: as we start to think about Panther Lake, that starts the process of actually bringing wafers back in-house. And what we've said in the past, and it's still true today, is that about 70% of the logic compute, the logic tiles for Panther Lake, will be done internally. Remember, Panther Lake is the notebook, the mobile parts, and then Nova Lake is desktop coming next year. And they're saying that's versus 0% for Arrow Lake and Lunar Lake. So again, they're saying that currently Arrow Lake and Lunar Lake are 0% in-house fabrication wafers for Intel. So they're saying they'll go up to 70% on Panther Lake. So that seems like, again, at least using more of their own fabs, et cetera. And I think that's because they're moving to the 18A nodes that Intel has been working on. And again, they're saying Nova Lake is also, and even better with Nova Lake, because remember, Panther Lake is just a notebook part. Nova Lake is also desktop. So as we move into the end of next year, into 2027, we'll get the added benefit of bringing desktop wafers back as well. So Intel has been having a really rough time here, but it's nice, like from the consumer perspective, from the PC buyers, it's good to have competition. It's exciting to see AMD doing so well when they were in such a rough spot, a while back pre-Ryzen, and then it took Ryzen a while to catch on and be as dominant as it is. But that doesn't mean it's good to have a lack of competition. So I'm hoping to see Intel firing back. It'd be nice to see some trading back and forth and maybe driving prices down, because if RAM prices suck, could we at least get everything else to go down? Also, if demand of buying new PCs dips, maybe that could actually help prices on everything besides the RAM to try to get people buying. I mean, again, I'm trying to find some silver linings here. Also, due to Intel's better outlook and the infusion of cash, we've had, remember, NVIDIA invested I think it was $5 billion into Intel, and then the U.S. government put, $8 billion or $10 billion? I think it was 8, to get a 10% share, et cetera. Intel's got an infusion of cash. They've got the better outlook on some of the, future CPU lineups, et cetera. So Intel had been looking at spinning off as much non-essential divisions of their company as possible when they were in such poor financial situation. It's actually looking like they're gonna potentially keep some divisions they were originally looking at spinning off. So we're seeing here at TrendForce, Intel to retain networking and edge division after spin-off review as financial outlook improves. So retaining networking and edge. And if you read into this, especially with networking, et cetera, for AI data center stuff and just data center in general, to offer those packages, I think it's helpful for them to have, the full package, be able to do networking, et cetera. So I think it does make sense for them to try to retain this stuff if possible. So looks like they are actually going to retain those, which I think makes sense. And actually, TSMC is now scrambling to bring advanced packaging into the US, as soaring demand, which they can't meet, is making potential clients look toward rival foundries like Intel. Because advanced packaging improvements are where a lot of the AI stuff is seeing improvements in performance, et cetera. So if TSMC is seeing a bottleneck on them being able to supply their customers with advanced packaging, then, those customers might look elsewhere. Intel's a potential rival, so TSMC trying to improve their ability to offer that and looking to do that in the US. So again, interesting. Again, I want to see the competition here on everything. Push more supply, fabs in more places, all of that. Because I think that in the end helps people trying to buy stuff at non-ridiculous prices. Anyway, now back to some bad news. If you've been hanging on to your 1080 Ti, the latest drivers are not game-ready drivers for your 1080 Ti. In general, Maxwell, Pascal, and Volta GPUs are no longer getting game-ready drivers as of the new drivers that just launched, which is the 590 branch. Now, that doesn't mean there won't be any driver support. It just means they're no longer game-ready drivers for these older generations. Now, this has been long-term support for these architectures, so I think this is seeming pretty reasonable to start phasing out at this point in time, whereas there was that recent massive backlash against AMD discussing phasing out the more, they don't use the game-ready driver branding, but that's essentially what they're talking about, the game-optimized drivers on day one. But that was for like RDNA 2, which was sold a lot more recently than these. And again, there was a major technological shift with having the Tensor cores, et cetera, on the RTX series of cards, which came after the 10 series. So I do kind of, this makes sense to me, although it's still sad to see, because honestly, a 1080 Ti still can play most of the latest releases if you're looking at, lower settings and lower resolutions. But still hanging in there. So it's been a good run. And again, it's not like you can't keep using it and won't still get any driver updates, just not the game-ready drivers. Now let's talk about this. Some of the biggest news today, although not necessarily in the PC hardware space, is Netflix acquiring Warner Bros., which is absolutely huge in the movies, TV, content streaming, because, HBO Max, for example, and HBO, amazing shows, tons of IPs. That's Netflix now. And to me, this feels like it should have had some problems from a monopoly perspective, but guess we just don't care about that anymore. But I don't need to get into regulations and all of that. We're more gaming focused here. So how does this affect gaming situation? Well, Warner Bros. Games is kind of a big deal. That they have a lot. Now, honestly, to make sure I'm not missing stuff, I did rely on our AI overlords here at Google and ask them, which game IP does Warner Bros. Own? And quite a bit. So obviously, Warner Bros. Owns things like the DC universe, so this would be like your Batman, Arkham series games, Gotham Knights, etc. Now, we'd recently seen that on a bit of a decline with the latest from Rocksteady. But, those are certainly traditionally big franchises, and if you're wanting to see them coming up, again, that's owned by Netflix now. Interesting. Harry Potter. The Hogwarts Legacy game was absolutely a runaway success sales-wise. That sold insane numbers of games. And I'm pretty sure there's a Hogwarts Legacy 2 in development. That's now owned by Netflix. Interesting. Mortal Kombat, which is because NetherRealm Studios is owned by Warner Brothers Games. So Mortal Kombat, now owned by Netflix. Some Lego games, because many of them are licensed, like Lego Batman, etc. A bunch of Lego games are based on franchises that Warner Bros. Owns. Fear, Scribblenauts, Game Party. Can we get some new Fear games, Netflix? I liked Fear. Fear was good. Anyway, so studios like Rocksteady Studios, NetherRealm Studios, again, Rocksteady doing Batman Arkham, NetherRealm's Mortal Kombat, Injustice, Avalanche Software, Hogwarts Legacy, WB Games Montreal, Gotham Knights, Arkham Origins, TT Games does some Lego games. Yeah, that's kind of a lot. So it'll just be interesting to see how Netflix stewards this whole situation. Definitely on the content streaming side of things, but also from the game side of things. What does this mean for all of them? We don't know. We'll have to see. They're under new ownership. Now, in other game-related news, I thought this was an interesting question. So there's jokes about, what'll come out first, GTA 6 or The Elder Scrolls 6. Well, Todd Howard of, Elder Scrolls Bethesda Studios leadership has confirmed that GTA 6 will release before Elder Scrolls 6 and before we get a Fallout 5. Now, this was, he was asked by Power Unlimited on a red carpet for the presentation of the second season of Amazon's Fallout TV series. And here's the direct quote. "What game do you think releases sooner? Is it GTA 6? Is it the Elder Scrolls 6? Or is it Fallout 5? His response, "I got my fingers crossed for GTA 6. And asked, "Do you think it will really come next year?" He says, "I do. They are doing an incredible job. I know the folks at Rockstar, and I think they are some of the absolute best at bringing a virtual world to life. It's a world that feels like it would go on even if you weren't there." Anyway, so basically, pretty sure we're not getting Elder Scrolls 6 before GTA 6, and GTA 6 has recently been delayed. So, anyway, I don't know if we're getting Elder Scrolls 6 anytime soon, guys. Now, hopefully Elder Scrolls 6 will be better than what we got from other recent Bethesda games. But anyway, this is just an interesting conversation to me too, because I still remember, because I'm old, playing Morrowind when it first launched and just being mind blown by an open world, incredible freedom, like you could do anything, like you can just kill main quest characters that I still remember in Morrowind, when you kill a character that's vital for the main quest, the game literally it doesn't stop you. It just pops up a warning that says something along the lines of warning, the threads of prophecy have been broken. Do you want to load a recent save or continue in the doomed world you've created for yourself? So I just remember the amount of freedom that Morrowind gave you, spellcrafting systems. You could just fly across the map and do all sorts of things. Elder Scrolls games past that one really actually removed a lot of the freedom of what you could do. It was mind-blowing what you could do in that game. And open world games were not a thing at that point. But also GTA, I think, launched at a similar time point with GTA 3, was it? I've never been as into GTA as I have been into Elder Scrolls, just my style of gaming. But I just remember the conversations, with my gamer friends at the time, just about I'm all into the Elder Scrolls. They're playing GTA and talking about which one offers more open world freedom and a world where you can do anything, etc. So anyway, this kind of struck me as just an interesting topic. Last gaming-related thing I'll mention, which is also PC hardware performance-related, is Path of Exile 2, The Last of the Druids update, is getting a big performance boost, they're claiming. So with the game update, there's going to be a whole bunch of changes. However, there's also performance increases promised. Now, this is coming on December 12th. Now, I found this at WCCF Tech. Now, if you scroll way down, they start talking about the promised performance boost. And I think it was something around the lines of improving frame rates by at least 25% in many scenarios and reducing frame time spikes, particularly on consoles, but could also help PCs. And additional performance improvements are currently under development and will be rolled out over the coming months. Now, they're saying that they're achieving this performance by including CPU and multi-threading optimizations. So basically, it looks like issues on the CPU side. By improving the CPU optimizations and multi-threading, they should reduce frame time spikes, and in CPU-bound situations, some of them at least, maybe 25% performance increases. So there's that. All right, that's the news I've got for you guys today. Like I said, I got to get my kids to gymnastics, so we're ending this. And again, if you got a crazy schedule, Akiflow in the video description and or pinned comment. I hope you all have an excellent day.